So here we are going to see the criticism of the German workshop. Uh, should we go ahead into this, Dada?
I think we can skip this. So
Yeah.
because I think the audience would be
So we'll
already
just
aware
see
of the
this
way this.
highlighted part and we'll skip this.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So what were their thoughts into Hindu sociology? Sénart will also be declared to be essentially unhistorical and anthropologically misleading. Li inde nest elevi ni a lidi de etantni lidi da pachi in his language. That means India rose neither to the idea of the state nor to the idea of fatherland. That's their thought. That's what they
Hmm.
thought of India as,
Correct.
and there are no empirical evidence for such.
Yes, for whatever we have learned and we have understood
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
people were writing Indian history sitting in America or in Europe
Hmm.
and never visited India to even know what they're writing about. So we can expect these kinds of opinions. So we call them opinions.
So here in this part, the author is criticizing on the Indology scholars that are sitting in Europe and writing about the foreign nation that they have not even heard of before through some documents. This would be the right criticism for them. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Let's
criticism is
see.
quite academic
Uh,
and very good as well.
mhm. So let's see why it's wrong. According to the Mason Orsel, the scholars ignore much the fact that India was once the greatest maritime and colonizing powers of the past. The extension of Indianism is described as a mighty radiance, of which the area extended from Madagascar to Tonkin. That's like the entire Indian subcontinent plus Southeast Asia, even
Uh,
touching Madagascar.
so Africa, see, Madagascar is Africa,
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
and
Madagascar.
and
Mhm.
one, and I don't know how many people know uh, geologically, geologically, India and Africa were one continent at one point of time. So
Mhm.
the Indian subcontinent that we see today, the subcontinent that we have, we call it Indian subcontinent. It was attached to Africa millions of years ago. So the Indian civilization, having its cultural influence, go across the seas and reach Madagascar and Bharat, okay, or the Indian subcontinent, having its cultural influence spread across the oceans to Madagascar is something which is quite coincidence, maybe.
Yeah. So let's see the survival of traditional Indology. These instances of the recognition of the positive background of Hindu culture by Indologists should not lead one to surmise the Orientalism or Indology has been finally emancipated from the sway of monistic, one-sided, and unscientific approaches and conclusions. Traditional Orientalism has not yet been subverted, but is still quite in evidence. So now we know 100 years later what has happened.